It's time to talk about managing those pennies, and you know who's here, Crystal Howell, our auditor, to spend some time with us, helping you to do best with your money, make that money really, really stretch. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Crystal. Hope you had a good weekend.
I did.
Ready for the week ahead?
I hope so.
I hope so.
You'll get there.
So what are we talking about this morning, Crystal?
We're going to continue the conversation we would have started earlier in terms of managing your human resources, because my focus is to not just look at the financial aspect of running a small business, but to look at all of the areas that actually do have a bottom line effect on the money that you would be investing. Things that we often ignore or don't realize the impact of it until it's too late. So we're continuing where we would have picked up originally with discipline, and now we're going to be talking about rewards.
Okay, so the incentives and compensation.
Correct.
Okay.
Because if you have a small business, just like if you were in a large organization and you appreciate incentives for the work that you do, the same thing should be applied to a small business to make sure that the persons that you have in your employ feel satisfied working with you and have pride and joy in what they give to you as a boss or the person in charge.
So you're talking about sharing those profits.
Correct. And it does not always have to be monetary, even though that is appreciated, but persons
And preferred.
and preferred, but persons underestimate the value of tokens that give persons the idea that you appreciate them and you find value in what they do and what they bring to your organization.
Cash is always great, but I could appreciate that because
Yeah.
that to me signals acknowledgement. And I think it would make me feel as a worker when there is the possibility for physical cash that would be
Yes.
possible or offered.
Yeah, because just think about it for your organization. No matter how much money some persons make, if they come to work every day and they feel undervalued or underappreciated, it doesn't matter what the money looks like, eventually they will leave. So sometimes, especially with the younger generation, the millennials and the Gen Z, they actually might leave for a job that pays less if they feel as though their work and they, as a human being, are better valued.
All right, so Crystal, how do we keep those good workers? Because you have your small business and you got this employee that you know they bring that extra value to your business. How do you keep the good workers and have a compensation package while not eroding your profits and seeing the business turn over?
Well, there are a lot of different things that you can look into. So some small ways that you can do that, which are things that I've had done for me in the past. Some persons write cards and they, at the end of every job or when they see the person do something they particularly like, they write a note in the card that identifies exactly what they appreciate about the person. So it's not a generic thanks for the work on the job, but thanking the person for what they did that made them stand out to the employer. And things like that made the employee realize this is some person who's actually taking note of what I have been doing. And creating a pleasant environment, not having one where persons come to work feeling as though they're going to be yelled at even if they do something wrong, having a conversation and bringing that person in to the decision making where possible, making sure that you say, okay, your ideas are valuable and you may not use every idea, but at least them knowing that they have a voice, they have a say, that their input is valued can make a difference. So if we have, as usual, our chicken and yes. If you have your employees and it feels as though this is the only way that it can be done, we have to fry the chips this way, we have to create the chicken that way. If your employees make a suggestion and it feels as though none of their suggestions are being heard, it's your way or the highway, eventually people are going to feel like they're not going to put their heart into the job, they're just going to do whatever they have to do, they're going to deal with the customers however they have to deal with them because their input is not valued. But feeling as though you are a part of, you be surprised, it makes a difference in the output that you would get from an employee.
Talk about the impact that could have if you have the employee going in that wrong direction on customer service. And I think that Barbados has somewhat fallen by the wayside in this regard. Many times I, as a customer, was happy with my customer service, spending my money, spending my hard-earned dollars, and it made me change my mind about going back to that establishment.
Correct. And it's a two-way street because it's not only all the onus is on the employer, some is on the employee. But many times we only recognize when the employee is at fault and not recognizing where the employer could contribute to creating an environment where persons come in and see happy salespersons. Because if they're not happy, it's going to be very difficult for them to translate that into the customer service, and then you have persons walking through the door because they're unhappy with the service that they received. And if we're seeing that more and more often in Barbados, we have to take a step back and realize, do we really have a country where so many persons have poor customer service? What are we doing to change that? How are we helping to improve and make sure that persons serve with a difference?
And just treating the employee better could help.
Yeah, well, it's very interesting because often you will hear people say, if you look at the way a man treats his mother, that's an indication of how he will treat a lady in his life.
Yes.
If an employer is treating their employees badly, they might not care what's going on with the customer.
Exactly. So they might see something going wrong and say, oh, that's not my job. But if they feel invested in the company, they will go outside of their expectations and do that little extra miles just so that your business will thrive because it's a place they feel good to work at.
Outside of that job description.
Exactly. You won't even have to ask.
Okay, so what are some of the things, looking at this, additional compensation in some cases, or just that note to say that you have done well? What are some of the lists, if you can give a list of a few things that employers can do to make that employee feel a whole lot more special?
Well, some things some employers do is to facilitate social activities. So you may have companies that create environments where you can exercise together, where you can have an after work social line. You can just bring some dominoes and let persons feel as though this is a place on a Friday or whatever day you designate that you can come, bring some drinks, play some dominoes, and
That
create that
helps.
environment.
This
Because
sounds like making the workspace a happy space.
And it should be.
it
There's nothing
should be.
wrong with
You
that.
spend a great deal of your waking hours at
I'm
your
with
place
you.
of work. And if you feel as though at the end of the 8 hours, you can't wait to get home because you're unhappy with how that environment is, it's going to translate into the work that you give. And there's only so much an employer can do, but if the effort is being made, people will reciprocate, and it won't happen overnight. You can't expect after years of persons being unhappy that one or two of these items are going to help employees to feel any different. But over time, if you help persons to realize they're going to socialize together, they get to know a little bit more, you have children, they begin to see this person as not just another cog in the wheel, but as another human being. They relate to each other better, they work together better, and they become more productive. So at the end of the day, it's in your best interest as an employer to create that kind of environment.
Yeah, the soft skills that can truly impact on the bottom line,
They
which is
do.
the ultimate deal. And I mean, there are models across the world that you could look at
Yes.
and see this happening. I always hear people talk about Microsoft and how they make sure the employees are very
Exactly.
happy, comfortable, and rested.
And I'm glad that you brought that up because many times we don't look at other examples of how this is being done, and we have to take what we see as best practice and see how it can be applied. It won't be everything that you can apply wholesale, but you can say, okay, I think this will work for the kind of environment that I have. I think that might not, and then you get feedback from your employees because just because you put it into place doesn't mean that they're going to take to it either.
Right.
Okay, what about this option, allowing, because I see a few businesses going in this direction, offering shares in the business to employees.
That is something that a lot of persons value. I know quite a few companies that do it. It's not a majority, but there are some. And it gives the person the incentive, especially if you explain it. Because some persons do it, but they don't explain the value of it. And a lot of Barbadians, unfortunately, don't understand what it means to be a shareholder.
We
But
don't have an investment mentality
we don't,
across the board.
and we take it for granted that we know what it's all about, but your employees may not. And if they can link the fact that they have shares, and if the company does well, their shares will perform better and they will have a greater value or a better dividend, then you will be able to get that input coming back from your employees. And I know some companies where having properly explained it, you see a better performance. You actually hear them saying, you can't do that because then that may impact the bottom line and you get that kind of conversation going. But education is key, not just for the employees, but employers also have to understand they need to educate themselves about the means and the methods to incentivize their employees. You have to do some trial and error to see what works, because hearing that this is something that might work doesn't mean you just throw it at them and say, perform better. You have to understand your employees as well.
Employers, I hope you're listening this morning, getting some good advice here from Crystal Howell. Of course, she's our auditor, and she spends a lot of time with us telling you how to make those pennies stretch, because you know what? They could help you improve those profit margins as well if you offer better customer service, and you need the employees to do just that. Thank you so much, as always.